Germany is rearming at a pace not seen since the Second World War, and Chancellor Friedrich Merz, basically the German head of state, has made it crystal clear why. He recently declared that the quote, peace dividend is over, marking the end of decades where European nations could slash military spending, basically not spend much at all, and focus all their cash on economic growth instead of defense. The peace dividend, by the way, basically means a bonus that a country gets to its economic prosperity by not having to spend as much on military, but still surviving as a functioning state. For Germany, this started after World War II, in particular after the end of the Cold War, US versus Soviet Russia. I know I'm simplifying. I didn't mention reunification and all that, but that's for another video. Now, why rearm in 2025? That's the question. Why is Germany gearing up? What's going on? Last two times Germany rearmed, it was bad news by the end of it, right? Well, Germany this time is citing Russia as a primary security threat to Europe, meaning Western Europe, really, maybe Central Europe as well, maybe Eastern Europe as well, actually. Anyway, it is worth noting that after the Soviet Union's collapse, if we're talking about Russia as a threat, it is worth noting that after the Soviet Union's collapse, it was the American-led NATO military alliance that moved eastwards towards Russia rather than the other way around, Russia shifting to the west. So, who's the threat, right? Who's the threat and who's the defender, right? Anyway, even so, rearming isn't just political rhetoric by Germany. Germany has passed actually a defense budget worth 2.4% of GDP in 2025, marking the highest spending as a percentage of GDP of their country since the Second World War, with plans to reach more than double, with plans to get to 5% of GDP spending on defense by 2029. Now that means their military spending will jump from about 90 billion this year to, in a few years' time, 160 plus billion, right? They're acquiring F-35 fighter jets, Patriot missile systems, all paid for, obviously, by the German taxpayer, but purchased from the United States. Leopard 2 tanks, that's actually a German one. Leopards are, fun fact, Germans name their tanks after big cats. Panther, Tiger, Leopard, Panther and Tiger, World War II. Anyway, the expanding of active duty soldiers is another thing they're aiming for. 180,000 as it currently stands, the German soldiers that the state mobilizes or can mobilize. Potentially, they want to move that to 240,000 troops by the end of this decade, by 2030. But here's where it gets really complicated, okay? Germany risks flip-flopping on these long-term goals because these are going to take years. And Germany risks flip-flopping, sort of going fast and then maybe breaking, maybe rolling back a bit, because the far-right alternative, or just the right wing, you could say, in Germany, the Alternative for Deutschland, AfD party, wants to work with Russia rather than oppose Russia militarily. The AfD has been gaining massive support, particularly in Eastern Germany, and they openly call for ending all sanctions against Russia, stopping military aid to Ukraine, and even rebuilding the Nord Stream pipeline. So, the exact opposite of what this current government is doing in many ways. The AfD came in second. Here's the alarming thing, or the inspiring thing. It depends on what side you sit on, I suppose. They came in second during the last German elections, less than a year ago. So there's a chance they could take the lead next time and then become the government, especially if the current especially if the current German government is busy rearming the country while ordinary Germans are getting poorer, all in the name of fighting this Russian boogeyman that doesn't really have a problem with Russia, with Germany. I mean, damn, it's too hot for this. It's really hot. It's like 29 degrees in London today. Now, more to the point on these pro-Russian sentiments, Germany's intelligence agency has confirmed that Russia is apparently actively trying to destabilize Germany's democratic system, and parts of the AfD are spreading pro-Russian narratives. Now, if the AfD continue gaining power, eventually lead, they could completely reverse Germany's rearmament strategy, or potentially even more destabilizing, they could rearm and then align with Russia. If that happens, you could see another sort of Molotov-Ribbentrop type pact in Eastern Europe, right? You stay out of my face, I stay out of your face, and then Russia goes, say no more, Germany is out of this. So I think Eastern Europe needs a new overlord. So, for better or for worse, by the way, that's just an assessment of mine. That's the way things could go if Germany's government flip-flops between center or left wing or right wing. Now, for those who don't know, the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact was a non-aggression pact signed between the Soviet Union and Germany before the start of World War II. It allowed Germany, therefore, because they promised not to attack each other, it allowed Germany to expand and occupy other states while Russia did nothing. Obviously, that backfired on Germany spectacularly because they then had a bright idea to invade the Soviet Union, which led to Soviet Union fighting back naturally and driving the tanks straight to Berlin. GG, well played. Now, this time perhaps it could be the reverse. If there was a non-aggression pact between the two, you know, it could be Russia expanding, not Germany expanding, if they both sign up to not fight each other. Now, back to Germany rearming and the current government that's not pro-Russian and what they're doing. Well, in May 2025, earlier this year, Germany announced its first permanent foreign military deployment since World War II, stationing an armored brigade, like German soldiers, German forces, German armor, in Lithuania to defend NATO's eastern flank against Russia. But there's a deeper problem to all of this ambitious military rearming and extending out to the east to face Russia. You see, the problem is the German economy is struggling, and the German military has spent decades being integrated into the American military framework. America leads, Germany supports, UK supports, France supports, da 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 da. NATO is basically America's arm, ready to punch the Soviet Union in Europe. It's America's arm. So if America leaves, arm disintegrates, basically. You see, for Germany, this creates a dangerous dependency on the US, because if things did get hairy, Russia, who has no such reliance, would come out on top. Russia has no such, overlord like Germany used to have in America. Russia's just Russia by itself. They operated independently. So there's a potential that they could come out on top in terms of a conflict, because Russia has led and fought for itself, has led itself into wars. Germany has not had that ability. They've been following America into wars. Merz has been explicit about his goal, though, the Chancellor of Germany, building, quote, the strongest conventional army in Europe. Wow, maybe Western Europe, because whole of Europe, Russia is included then. This represents, though, Germany's complete strategic shifts from decades of military restraint and military reliance on the US to becoming Europe's primary military power all by itself. It's grown up, or grown up again, I guess. And it has to be said, with America on its way out the door in Europe, potentially on its way out of potentially militarily stepping away from NATO as a whole, for example, Germany, France, the UK, these are the states that have to step forward. They have to step up, whether they want to or not, for their own security. And potentially, if they want to get ambitious and extend their security to Eastern Europe, definitely they'll have to step up, because Russia is right next door. And America, falling from its sole superpower world hegemon dominant status, means the status quo in Europe, the normal for the last few decades, is no longer normal. It's open to change now. And change often means war. The age of peace, for better or worse, under unipolarity is over. Europe enters the global era of multipolarity by arming for the age of war. For the unbiased news and analysis without the Western spin, it's been a pleasure delivering the news to you guys. I'm Mahfouz, and I'll see you on the next one. Subscribe to my YouTube. I'm watching. Well, actually, you'll be watching. You get the point.